Hi, welcome to the garden. This is Kara with Petals and Stems, and today we're harvesting blue Bachelor Button seeds. It's mid-June, which is a great time. The flowers have come and gone. The seeds are starting to form. The seed heads are popping open. There's more than I can keep up with. So let's take a look at what's going on here. The bees are out juicing up the last little bits of the flowers, but let's go ahead and see what the right stage of the flower is to start gathering the seeds and what the seeds look like. Okay. So here was a really strong patch of Bachelor Buttons this year. You can see they're really tall. They're about 3.5 feet high. The flower heads themselves were really strong and sturdy, and they created really great cut flower additions to our bouquets this year. So as we're looking through, we still have plenty of live heads. We have some that are in the stage of drying out. And then we also have some that have already pretty much completely opened and spread their seed. There might be a couple left in there. What I'm looking for is something kind of in between. So I'm tending to look for something that has a little bit of brown on the top. Maybe it still has a little bit of few totally dried out petals. And sometimes the top of the stem is starting to dry out quite nicely as well. So I just take that and pluck it off. And then what I do is I just start to sift through. And you can, if you stick your finger in there, you can actually feel the tips or the backs of the seeds poking out, and they just feel like a little, like little tiny pebbles. Let's go ahead and take a look at this guy, see what's inside. So I like to work on a white surface just because my eyes can pick out the seeds a lot easier. But what we have here is I've just pulled apart that seed head and just kind of mutilated it into all kinds of pieces, and it really falls apart quite easily and naturally when it's ready. And what you're looking for are these little feathery pieces. Boop, I'll focus in there. And what I think they look like are a little fish, tropical fish, or like a little rocket ship. And so the feathery piece is just what the air catches to blow the seed around. The seed head is actually the other piece. And it should be quite hard, hard and firm to the touch. And then you can usually kind of poke at it. And there may not even be a seed inside. This one does. It has quite a hard little mass inside, and that's the actual seed itself. I can sift through here. Here's another, probably better example. Sorry, I'm still working on this. A quite firm little seed head, a strong tail, and that one I feel it would feel firm that it was going to give me a nice strong plant. There's another one, and usually per seed head you can get anywhere from 2 to 10 depending on how big your flower was and whatever stage it was in seed release. I would say an average 5 is a good, for my garden, a good flower worth taking out and plucking from. What I do first and foremost though is as I'm looking through the flower heads is as I pluck them, I do give them kind of a little poke, like I said earlier, and you should be able to feel the seeds in there. And if you don't, maybe don't make the effort, because that can get pretty fatiguing just plucking off. The first time I did it, I plucked off about 100 seed heads thinking they're at the right stage, and ultimately they were much farther gone. So that's a good little group of seeds there. We'll try again. Now when I'm out in the garden, a lot of times I'm doing quite a bit of this with quite a lot of different flowers. If you're new to this, go ahead and take a Sharpie and write down inside of there what you have right away. What I do, because I'm often working with different colors, is I'll throw a live flower head in there. So if I don't go back to the shop for a few hours, I can recognize the seeds fine, but I might need a reminder like, oh, okay, that was my blue or purple Bachelor Buttons. And I find that a nice little trick. I just throw them in a baggie. Sometimes it's nice to do that as well, because these are full flower head or full seed heads right now. And a lot of times they'll kind of dry out on their own and the little seeds will fall to the bottom. That's kind of a lazy gardener's trick. If I really am gung-ho, I'll sit down with each seed pod and really massage the seeds out. ultimately some will fall out before you don't have to work too hard. I reuse these bags season to season. That's probably not the greatest idea. These were actually some from my kids' elementary school class that I couldn't stand to just throw away. But ultimately what I'll do is I'll divide all the seeds up and plant them into, or I'm sorry, store them into either a glass jar or a paper bag, nicely labeled. I'll even start to divide them up into quantities of 20 or 30 and give them out to friends and sell them at the market. So I think that my strongest Bachelor Buttons grow from being sown in the fall. A lot of these are actually volunteers. They sowed themselves and they put themselves where they're happy, and they come back really strong. I do think that the ones I planted on purpose in the fall came pretty strong as well. So they'll overwinter, they'll create probably little sprouts late fall. They'll overwinter safely, at least in Western North Carolina. And then in the spring, you'll start to see flowers probably as early as April or so, depending on your year. You could plant them fairly late winter. They'll probably be fine. They can handle the frost. This is one you could definitely do a succession planting in. I just feel like mine grow in succession kind of automatically anyways. And I'm also fairly okay with them being done by the time they're done and ready to move on to the late spring flowers and the early summer flowers. So Bachelor Buttons are a really fun, strong plant to grow and add lovely character to any and all arrangements. And let me show you a few more colors that we have in the garden. So this is my patch of actual purposely planted Bachelor Buttons. This is about a 10-foot by 3-foot row, give or take. It was not the strongest patch by any means, but I think if I till it up and reuse this patch, of course I'm mending it well this year, next year, it will be great. But let's take a look at some of the other colors we do have, and that's what I'm really excited about with this area. So we had these lovely pink fellas here. I'm gonna steal a couple of those seeds today. Light purple, pinks. I have grown Bachelor Buttons for a while. They are quite vigorous and they kind of annoyed me until I started to realize how many different colors there are. I think that that blue, purple blue, is probably what it's most known for. But there are also some very deep purples, light purples. It's like all my deep purples are gone. Another great thing about them is that the bees love them, so they bring pollinators to your garden, save the bees. Still some lovely pinks, light purples. And I think in the spring it's really nice to have this variety of colors. And I think they just bring a real happy feeling to some arrangements here. And I think that the Bachelor Buttons are a lovely crop to have in your garden, and they seem to work well. I have some foxglove growing next to them, some marguerite daisies, and they're next to some yarrow and dianthus in this season. Next year I'm going to open this up and have them take up a lot more space. They are hardy reseeders. They will come back the next year in all kinds of places. I tend to let them grow up, but I do try to catch them most often before they go to seed, or I just kind of weed them out in the spring where I don't really want them growing and reseeding. But you never know when you're going to need a good handful of these guys. So I hope you got some information from this video. It's a really fun crop to plant, grow. Enjoy. Grow some Bachelor Buttons.